This Sunday, February 22nd, the Mexican government, with key support from U.S. intelligence, carried out an operation that ended the life of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The reaction was immediate. Within hours, highway blockades, vehicle burnings, and targeted attacks against both security forces and civilians began. A coordinated response that raises an unavoidable question. At what point did cartels stop being criminal gangs and become heavily armed paramilitary structures? To understand the firepower of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, we have to look back. Today's major cartels emerged after the fragmentation of the Guadalajara cartel in the 1980s. Initially, they operated as logistical corridors for cocaine coming from Colombia. However, the shift toward militarization began in the late 1990s with the emergence of Los Zetas, a group formed by former members of GAFE, the Mexican Army's special forces. They introduced advanced tactical training and systematic violence that transformed organized crime. From that point on, other groups entered an arms race, operating with an almost military logic. Today, the equipment of some cartels is comparable to that of state forces. How do they access such arsenals? Primarily through two routes. The first is the so-called Iron River, a term used to describe the steady flow of high-caliber weapons from the United States into Mexico. Official reports estimate that around 70% of seized weapons originate in U.S. territory. The rest comes from internal diversion and the Central American black market. The growth of this armed power also reflects political decisions. In 2006, President Felipe Calderón launched a direct offensive against the cartels. The strategy aimed to dismantle them by eliminating their leaders. While it achieved major arrests, it produced an unintended effect. As visible heads disappeared, groups fragmented into smaller, more unpredictable, and extremely violent factions. Later, the security approach shifted toward a less confrontational stance. The policy known as hugs, not bullets, promoted by former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, sought to reduce direct confrontation. However, critics argue that this strategy allowed organizations like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel to expand their territorial influence. Current President Claudia Sheinbaum has defended similar lines, prioritizing social programs over large-scale operations. According to various sources, the recent operation against the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel reportedly occurred under strong international diplomatic pressure. In that context, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel emerged and consolidated its power. Founded around 2010 after the fall of Ignacio Nacho Coronel, it initially presented itself as a rival to Los Zetas under the name Los Matazetas. Over time, it abandoned that narrative and positioned itself as one of the most powerful criminal organizations in the country. Who was El Mencho, really? Unlike other high-profile drug lords, he kept a low public profile. Originally from Michoacán, his youth was marked by economic hardship. He worked in agriculture, migrated to the United States without documentation, was arrested for drug-related offenses, and later deported. Back in Mexico, he joined the municipal police in Jalisco, an experience that allowed him to understand the inner workings of the security system. Under his leadership, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel expanded aggressively. It controls strategic areas in western Mexico and holds influence over the port of Manzanillo, a key entry point for chemical precursors used in the production of fentanyl and methamphetamines. Its structure is estimated to include thousands of members organized into cells. Among them is the so-called elite group, which operates with tactical discipline, uniforms, and improvised armored vehicles known as monsters. What comes next? The death of El Mencho does not mean the disappearance of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Rather, it opens a period of uncertainty and potential violent reconfiguration. Internal disputes over leadership could emerge. Rival organizations may attempt to exploit the transition, and clashes with the state could escalate. Strategically, the operation represents a significant blow, but not the end of the conflict. On the complex chessboard of drug trafficking, every move reshapes the balance of power, and this shift may only be the beginning.